See, I don't think a lot of people consciously understand that what they have experienced in their past has shaped who they are and how they operate in their present. And when people don't see it, when they're not conscious of it, then guess what happens? They become victims of their past in their present, and it totally affects and disables them from succeeding in their future. So let me explain to you how this works. So for me, I grew up as a victim. I mean, literally. I mean, if you think about it, my parents were drug addicts. My mama gave me to my grandma to raise me. She was a poor Jewish woman doing her best to raise a biracial little kid in the 70s, early 80s, right when the crack epidemic hit. And so it was normal for me to live in this victimized world, which subsequently caused me to go right into doing the same things my parents and everybody else, or at least most people, were doing at that time. Using drugs, committing crimes, running the streets, right? And so I did that up until 21 years old, pretty much. We're talking about 24 years ago. Do the math, I'm 45, so we're talking about 24 years ago. Now, with that being said, I had to make a conscious decision to not allow my upbringing, my past, whether it was brought upon me by other people's decisions or not, I still had to make a conscious decision not to allow that to disable me, because if it disables me, that would mean I'm still living as a victim to what happened to me or to what was handed to me. And so I made the conscious decision that I'm not going to be victimized by my past. I'm not going to be suffocated. I'm not going to be overwhelmed. I'm not going to live in this limited box of beliefs that because of how I was raised, how I was treated, how I was victimized, how I never had anything, that I can't accomplish anything in my life now. And making that conscious decision, it opened me up to the possibilities, just the possibilities of knowing that if I'm willing to put the work in, if I'm willing to, of course, trust God and love myself and believe in myself and do the work, that at some point that possibility can expose me to a greater potential. And that's exactly what happened to me. So with that being said, I want you to figure out the ways that you can take the experiences of your past and detach yourself from the victimized part of it, because we're all victims to something, but we don't have to live in the victimization of it. And it's going to be critical, because if you look at where you are right now in life, what you're dealing with right now, I guarantee it's easy for certain areas of your life to be associated to other people and the decisions that they made and how those decisions have negatively affected you, negatively impacted you. And to some extent, they may have disabled you, but you don't have to be a victim of it. And the only way you're going to remain a victim of it is if you choose to give them the power and give them the control of what happens, to the extent that you feel like, oh, it was their fault. If I wouldn't have did this with them, I wouldn't be here. If I would, and to some extent it may be true, but you don't have to live in the victimization of it now. So you got to detach yourself from it. It's kind of like having a full garbage can and you're trying to put new stuff in it. It ain't gonna happen. You have to get rid of the trash. You got to get rid of those things. You got to detach yourself from it. As a matter of fact, the Apostle Paul in the Bible, you know, I got a scripture for everything, right? But Paul, the apostle in the Bible, said in Philippians 3, forgetting those things from behind or from the past, I press toward the mark. So in order to press forward, in order to move forward, in order to really live in victory today and to see the manifestation of that victory, in order to live in the potential that your work that you put in has opened you up to, in order for you to see that and live in that, you got to let go of the past. You cannot be a victim. So I choose, this is something you need to say to yourself, I choose to be a victor. I choose to live in victory. I just do not accept being a victim. I'm not going to be a victim to racism. I'm not going to be a victim to classism. I'm not going to be a victim to my environment. I'm not going to be a victim to my past. I'm not going to be a victim to systems and structures and people and places and things that may be set up to victimize me, that may be set up to control the narrative of my life. But I choose to not allow people, places, and things to make me a victim. I choose to be a victor. I choose to live in victory. I choose to control the narrative of my life and to put the work in, to do the things that are needed and necessary for me to see that victory in my life. I want you to exercise that, and I want you to live in that victory.